great pleasure to be joined by Calder, who is sitting next to me, to introduce our next speaker, Larissa. So Larissa is the Vice President and Portfolio Manager at Dodge Cox, the firm that she joined 20 years ago, right after earning her MBA from right here at Berkeley Haas. While at Haas, yeah, claps for that. While at Haas, this is impressive. She was the president of the MBAA, the first president to do so, the first woman, participated in IBD, helped plan the second annual WIL conference, and was on the staff of Haas Week. Prior to business school, she also worked in various institutions in the non-for-profit classical performing arts industry. Graduating from Haas did not stop her from continuing to invest in her communities. Currently, she serves on the board of directors for the San Francisco Ballet Endowment, the board of the Berkeley Haas School of Business, and as was mentioned earlier by Dean Lyons, she is on the search committee for the new dean for the Berkeley Haas School of Business. She's also a founding advisory board member for the Berkeley Haas, let me make sure I get this right, Kelly, Equity, Gender, Leadership, the new name of CJIL. So, your turn.
Hi, my name is Calder. I would like to introduce my mom.
And here is Larissa.
Thank you, sweetie. Do you want to sit here or you want to go up there? You want to sit here? Cool. Front row seats. So I am so happy to be here. Wow, 23 years later. I'm just realizing where's page 1 of my speech. Okay, so I'm going to have to wing it. I really wanted to have this fully memorized, but I'm into this just-in-time kind of stuff now, so I decided to sleep instead of fully memorizing it. So I wanted to start off with a story. My son is a Cub Scout, and earlier this week I was at a den meeting, and it was the Pinewood Derby races. Who knows about that? Yeah. So Pinewood Derby. Pinewood Derby is effectively, they give the boys this 4-inch block of wood, and over the next few weeks they have to carve it and sand it and shape it and paint it and decorate it and turn it into a race car. And then at the meeting, they're there racing these cars against each other. It's very, very competitive. And so I'm standing there with the other moms, and because the moms stand in one place and the dads stand in another place. So I'm standing there with the other moms, and we're watching heat after heat after heat after heat of these races. And the mom next to me leans over and says, "You know, one of the other dens lets the Girl Scouts compete, and they always win." And I was like, "Really? Why is that?" And she said, "Well, Pinewood Derby is all about planning, following the rules, and executing flawlessly." I thought, this is a great story about girls. I mean, not only is it like inspirational, but it changes our perceptions of girls. Here's a story about girls beating boys at making and racing cars, right? That's what I love about stories. I mean, stories have the power to transform how we think about ourselves and how we think about the world around us. So I'm going to tell you my story today, and I know we've heard a lot of stories today. But I'm not going to tell you the whole story. I'm going to focus on certain inflection points or transformational parts of my life where either I learned a really, really important life lesson, or I was challenged to rethink who I was as a person, and it forced me to evolve and progress. I believe that our stories tell us who we are today. And by looking back through our stories, we get clues about who we were and who we can be in the future. Now, life to me is a whole process of becoming ourselves. So I'm going to tell you parts of my story so that you can get a sense of who I am. And maybe some of these stories will resonate with you, or maybe it'll provide a roadmap for you as you think through your story and who you might become. I'm Japanese. I was born in Japan, and I always like telling people that because inevitably somebody says, "Oh, wow, that's so interesting." And it makes me feel really special. But what's really fundamentally important to me about being in Japan was that it completely transformed how I view the world and how I felt the world viewed me. Because when I was growing up, every person that I saw, other than my mom, my dad, and a few of their friends, was Japanese. And so I ended up thinking that I was Japanese, and that's logical. Now, I know that to some of you, I might be skating on thin ice here, but again, I was a kid. All I knew was that everyone around me was Japanese, so I assumed that I was also Japanese. And I think what this did for me was that there was something that, as my brain was developing, something fundamentally developed in a different way. And those boundaries between race blurred. Now, just to check myself on this, to make sure that it wasn't just some sort of, pathological thing that was going on in my brain, I have a very good friend at work who is ethnically Japanese, but who was born and raised in Orange County. Turns out he had exactly the same experience, but in the inverse. So what do we learn from this experience? How does this shape me as a human being? Well, fundamentally, we know that racism is a social construct. There's absolutely no biological justification for discriminating against people based on their race. But I didn't learn that in a book. I learned that through living it and thinking I was another race, right? So how does that affect me? We all come from the same seed, right? How does this affect me in my life? Well, because I grew up in this blurred space in race, it led me to be incredibly adaptable in any situation. So not only do I look out and I see everyone just as people, but I'm able to adapt myself in a variety of situations, right? Because I don't view myself as a white woman. I view myself as a collection of other things. So it has made me in my life really adaptable to a variety of different situations and challenges. Episode 2, Camp Dartmouth. So it's 1975, summer of 1975. I'm 8 years old, and for people here doing the math, it means I'm 51 now. I know, I'm going to look out and be My dad graduated from Dartmouth College, and he'd really never been involved at all in anything in the college, so I don't know what possessed him the summer of 1975 to say, let's all go to Camp Dartmouth, which sounded about as much fun as military academy. Because really, I'm 8 years old, and all I want to do is go to the beach and hang out with my friends. But we pack up the car, and we drive the 4.5 hours to New Hampshire. And I'm going to pause here for a second, and just for those of you who don't know, Dartmouth was founded in 1769, and for the next 203 years, it was all men. So it went co-ed in 1972, but they only admitted transfer students. So the first year that it was fully co-ed, admitting women, was 1975. So by the time 74. So by the time I got there in 1975, it had been co-ed for a full 1 year. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but I get there, and my camp counselor is this young woman named Amy Kamen, and it turns out she's actually from the town that I was living in, which was amazing. And what I loved about Amy was that she was smart, and she was funny, and she was athletic, but most of all, she loved Dartmouth. She loved being at Dartmouth. So I just attached myself to Amy for the entire time, ended up loving the alumni camp. And at the end of that summer, I came home and I said, Mom, Dad, I'm going to go to Dartmouth. Now, this is only important in that had I waited until I got to high school and had I looked at all of the college, I might have thought, well, I don't know, the school's been men for 203 years. Maybe there wouldn't be opportunities for women there. Maybe I wouldn't be able to succeed. But the fact that I had seen Amy in the first year of Dartmouth going co-ed, loving it and thriving, meant that I felt that I could be successful there too. And this is a really important principle in my life. You can't be what you can't see. And that's why all of you getting out there and being in the workforce is so important in setting examples. Because of Amy, I had a dream at 8 years old that I was going to go to Dartmouth and be successful. And I did apply to Dartmouth, and I did get accepted to Dartmouth. And it was the only school I applied to. Respect. So it's a couple years later, I think I'm 10 or 11, and my dad is the head of personnel for Citibank. And he has to go to work on a Saturday, and he says, I'm going to take you with me. I'm like, oh, this is going to be so fun. So we take the Metro North commuter railway in, and we walk the 12 blocks from Grand Central Station to his office, the Citibank headquarters at 399 Park Avenue. And because he's head of personnel, he gets to eat in the executive dining room. So it's very exciting for me. And we walk in, and immediately we run into this person. And my dad says, well, hello, Bill. He's very polite. So nice to see you. How are the wife, the kids? You doing well? This is my daughter, Larissa. We shake hands, we exchange pleasantries, and then we go and we have our lunch. And I say, wow, Dad, who was that? He says, that was Bill Spencer. He's the president of Citibank. I said, oh, that's pretty cool. So we finish our lunch and we go upstairs to his office, and we're walking down the hallway to get to his office, and we run into another gentleman. And my dad is very polite and courteous, and he says, well, hello, Bill. So nice to see you. How are the wife and the kids? Everyone doing well? How are you doing? This is my daughter, Larissa. We shake hands, exchange pleasantries, and we walk down the hall to his office, and I'm like, wow, Dad, who was that? He says, that was Bill Smith. He's the janitor. Important lesson. I get a little verklempt when I think about this. This is my dad, right? So my dad had this principle in life: just treat everyone with the same level of respect. And this was something, again, that I learned through experience. It wasn't something that somebody taught me, treat everybody the same. This was me witnessing my dad in action doing this. And I asked my dad recently, I said, Dad, where did you learn this? And he said, well, when I was growing up, we weren't really well off. And I always appreciated, he went to Dartmouth on a ROTC scholarship, so I always appreciated when other people showed me respect. And I thought, why is this so powerful for me now? And I realized because as a woman, when I'm in a situation when someone else goes out of their way to show me respect, how powerful that is to me. And so this is a principle that drives everything that I do. I'm conscious about it, I'm unconscious about it, but it's really a founding principle in my life. The ERA. So now it is 1981. I'm a sophomore in high school, 14 years old. And really, at this point, the world is just all possibility. I mean, think about this. Race doesn't matter. Women can do anything. And if you treat everyone with respect, the world will open its doors for you. Right? Enter the Equal Rights Amendment. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Equal Rights Amendment is a constitutional amendment. It was first introduced in 1923 by suffragette Alice Paul. This is in the wake of women getting the right to vote in 1920. And essentially what she wanted to ensure was that all of the rights that were described in the Constitution would be applied equally to everyone, regardless of sex. So here are the exact 24 words that are in the ERA. Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. That's pretty straightforward, right? Well, not for me. Why would we need such an amendment? Do people not think that women deserve the same rights as men? This was shocking for me. So I turned to my dad's younger sister, Sally, who is a feminist historian. She's one of the first women in the United States to get her PhD in women's studies. And she taught me everything about women's history that I hadn't learned in school. She taught me about how Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Matilda Jocelyn Gage, alongside Susan B. Anthony, had been the early suffragettes who had pushed for the women's right to vote, which sadly none of them actually got to see. And she also taught me about how women at that time were being denied the opportunity that they wanted to earn equal pay for doing equal work. There's this great quote by Gloria Steinem, which was really apropos. The truth will set you free, but first, it will piss you off. I was pissed off. I was pissed off. What do you mean that it matters that I'm a woman, right? Oh, I'm so happy to see it. Everybody take a picture of this. Everybody get out your phones, right? Take a picture of this. I love Gloria Steinem. I actually got to have tea at her house because she's a friend of my aunt's, which is amazing.
And I got a certificate from her.
And my son got oh, that's, okay, if I have time for like a 2-minute story. So my son here, who's an avid reader, there's these great books that are, you know, who was Abraham Lincoln? So we go into a bookstore, and Calder loves these books. And so I say, you can pick any book. We have this rule. We go into a bookstore. You can pick any book that you want. And so he goes back there, and he goes to the Who Was section. He's flipping through. And he pulls out this book, Who Was Gloria Steinem? And he sits down in the bookstore, and he starts reading. He's like, Mom, this is the book that I want. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. So I take a picture of it and send it to my Aunt Sally, who then sends it to Gloria Steinem. How awesome is that, right? And Gloria Steinem like sends him a letter, so it's like, it's awesome. I like, seriously, that's like serious mommy proudness moment ever. Okay, I gotta get back to my train of thought. So what I learned from my Aunt Sally was she was an educator, so she's a professor. So she's trying to change the system from the outside. She's teaching, she's writing books, she's doing lectures, she's doing Chautauqua, she's impersonating Elizabeth Cady Stanton, going around all the country trying to teach people about women's suffragette movement and women's history. But at that point, I decided, you know what? I don't want to do that. I want to try to change it from the inside. So at the ripe old age of 14, I decide not only do I just want to go to Dartmouth, I want to get my MBA, and I want to become an FX trader, because as far as I knew, that was like the furthest thing away from anything that women thought, or that people thought that women could do, right? So I'm not just going to step over this line, I'm going to like go way over this line. And sadly, the ERA did not pass. It needed 38 states to ratify it. It got 35. Although there are still some people who are pushing for it. I heard Nevada just recently signed on, so we're up to 36. Maybe in 100 years we'll get But what's cool is that I achieved my goal, right? I went to Dartmouth. I got my MBA here. I became a corporate bond trader, which I'm going to say, that's close enough, right? And in addition, all of you are out there, and you're challenging those stereotypes. And that is what's really going to make a difference. Not all of these stories are happy. Oh, sorry, that's happy. Okay, so this is the one that's not happy. You know, someday people are going to make bra straps that don't fall down. I mean, really. It's decided by. So are these, right? Okay. Okay, so now it's the summer of 1984. I've just graduated from high school, and I've decided to go and spend the summer in France in a language immersion program. And I'm living with a family in La Rochelle, and there are 2 other students living there with me, a Spanish woman and an Italian woman. And so I immediately become friends with Ligia, my Italian friend. And I spend all of the afternoons after school at the beach with all of her beautiful Italian friends. And as an aside, I come back from France that summer with like the most wicked Italian accent on my French. It was like, je suis allée à la plage. So that was the good part about it. So this one night, Ligia and I have been at the beach, and we're coming home, and it's late. It's like after dinner. It's like way after. It's really late. And we're speaking in French, because I don't speak Italian, she doesn't speak English. And we're walking along with this beautiful 18th century covered walkway. And suddenly, these 2 women come up behind us and grab us and throw us into the wall. Qu'est-ce qui se passe? What's going on? What do you want? Nothing. And then, okay, I'm going to hold it together. Then the punches start, right? So they are punching us and kicking us, and we can't figure out why. Do you want our wallets? Do you want our money? We don't know what's going on. I have no idea how long this goes on, because when adrenaline comes, right, you just see everything slows down. But it's going on for quite some time. Now, I grew up with 2 younger brothers, so I know enough to protect my head and my face. But Ligia didn't. And I can see out of the corner of my eye that she's on the ground and that she's being kicked and kicked and kicked. So somehow I turn myself away and I pull the other woman off of her and I lean down and I just grab her and I say, "Run!" And we just start running and running and running and running and running and running. And it's one of those things where you just, again, your legs are just moving. And somehow we find our way to the police department. And in our broken French, we're trying to tell them what has happened, and we drive around looking for the women, and we never find them, of course. And we go to the doctor the next day, and luckily, Ligia has a few cracked ribs, and other than a lot of bruises and cuts, we're going to be okay. There's no major damage. So what can I possibly learn from something like this? Well, when we're growing up, we rely on our parents to protect us and keep us safe. And here I was, thousands of miles away from home, my first time really away from home. And I realized that it was my responsibility to keep myself safe. Yeah? My responsibility to keep myself safe. So when I get to Dartmouth, I sign up for Taekwondo as part of gym. And I end up really enjoying it. So I join the team. I compete on the team. My first tournament, I make it to the finals and get second place versus a second-degree black belt. So it turns out I'm actually pretty good at it. And I compete in these tournaments. But one of my favorite parts is these public demonstrations that we used to do, where I would break boards with my fist in fraternity basements. And all I had to do was walk around campus with my Dartmouth Taekwondo team jacket on, and people would be like, "I'm just going to give you a little bit extra room." So this was a really, really good lesson. I mean, all of these are really good lessons up to this point, right? But sometimes we forget. And this is one lesson that I forgot. There's a great Spanish philosopher named George Santayana who has this quote: "Those who cannot remember the past are doomed to repeat it." And I repeated this. And it took living through an abusive relationship to remember that it is my responsibility to keep myself safe. So I have gone back to studying martial arts. Actually, my son helped me get back into this. And I'm going to submit for your amusement. I didn't do this myself. We had a photo session. But it's like, watch out, Jackie Chan. Okay. Girls can't do math. I grew up loving numbers. I mean, ever since as far back as I can remember, I've been good at math. It just was one of those things where I was constantly, my son knows this too, so I'm always like, math is everywhere.
It's not!
He hasn't discovered the joy of math yet. In 4th grade, I won the school-wide math-a-thon, and by 11th grade, I was finishing my exams early and writing extra credit questions for myself and scoring 110 on my exams. So when I got to Dartmouth, of course, I'm going to study math, right? I want to major in math. But I'd also played the piano since I was 5, and so I was curious about this music theory course. And I went through it, and it was fascinating because I'd never really understood anything about how music was constructed. And it turns out that the theory behind how music is put together is very mathematical. And so I decided that I wanted to do music theory and math theory. And because of some of the technicalities of doing a double major, extra requirements and stuff, it made more sense for me to major in music with a minor in math. But in order to do that at Dartmouth, you had to petition both departments and get their sign-off on it. I don't know, something about conjoining them at the hip. They wanted to make sure it made sense. So I go to the math department, and my math professors, most of whom, by the way, are amateur musicians and composers themselves, are like, yeah, go for it. Music department, on the other hand, says, I don't know about this. We want you to submit a written proposal and have an interview with the head of the department to defend your idea, which I do. And I'm in there, and he's grilling me and cross-examining me. And we get to the end, and he's like, well, fine, I'll sign off it. You're probably not going to finish it anyway, because girls top out in math in high school. So this was not the first time I'd ever encountered sexism, but it was the first time that I had someone tell me that I couldn't do something because I was a girl, right? So here's an expectation someone else has of me. It's different from my preconceived notion of myself. So what do I do with it? I can either back down and be like, is that true? Do women really top out in math in high school? Am I not good at math anymore? Or what happened to me is I felt this thing in my belly. And I said, oh yeah? Watch me. So this is what it felt like to me. I can either slam into it or I can go over it. And I felt somehow like the going over it or around it was going to make me stronger. So what this experience taught me was that it's my job to define who I am and not let other people's expectations about what I might do or what I might be able to accomplish define me, right? Chart my own course. But what I also realized is that I had this thing in me where I really, really enjoyed doing stuff that other people thought I couldn't do. Right? It's kind of that shock thing. Wow. So for many years, I drove a truck. Oh, it's my puppy. Oh. She's like, yeah, go, girl. I drove a truck. I didn't shave my legs for a long time. I practiced martial arts, all these things. But I was intentionally doing them because these were things that people thought that women couldn't do or shouldn't do. And it became like this defiance thing. And this is where it started. What's next? Oh, this is my favorite. Net present value. This is perhaps the biggest inflection point in my life, and it's so great it's because it happened here, I think in C220. So I'm a freshman. I'm first year at Haas, 1995, and I'm so excited to be there be at business school because I'm going to start gathering all my tools for my toolkit. How many business school essays, right, have that in there? I'm going to put tools together, management tools. But what I really want to do is I want to go back into the non-for-profit performing arts because that's the world that I was in. Through my dad, I had met Deborah Borda, who was the general manager of the New York Philharmonic, and I was like, I'm going to go work for Deborah. This is going to be great. I'm going to have music, and I'm going to have management. It's perfect. But at the same time, I'm here, and I'm feeling a little insecure because everyone else is walking around, and they're using terms like utility curves and EPS and interest rates, and I'm smiling, and I'm being like, I got no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea what this stuff is. And so second week in finance class, Professor Matt Siegel, he puts this formula up on the board. Net present value. I had to grab it from Wikipedia, so I think it's okay. It was too much to type it into Excel last night. So net present value basically is a way to value a stream of future cash flows today, right? It's pretty straightforward. But I looked at this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll just Black Scholes. Oh my gosh, this is just math. This is just math. It's got the words net present value on it, and that means something. But I look at this, and I see math. And I realize, wait a minute, I'm good at math. I can understand this. And what that teaches me in that moment is, if I can understand this, what else can I understand with the skills that I already have? What tools and skills do I already have that I'm not using, that I don't realize are going to be applicable here? And this was a huge moment for me, because then all of a sudden I'm like, well, wait a minute. All this terminology that they're using, this is just shorthand for describing something. So I can learn the terminology because I already understand how it works. So what else can I do with the skills I already have? So this was a real, again, challenging my notions of myself. I thought I didn't know things, but it turned out that I had all of these skills that I wasn't tapping into. Oh, and by the way, present value is also the way that you price a bond. And I ended up going into fixed income, and I've been a fixed income portfolio manager for 20 years, so I get to use NPV every day.
What's MPV?
You trade like a girl. All right, so now we're fall of 1997. I've started working at Dodge Cox full time, and where do I want to go with this? Oh, I'm a desk analyst, and that means that I'm the liaison between the trading desk and the research analyst, so I'm like a conduit. And I'm loving it because it's basically taking ideas from our team about relative fundamental value, and I'm helping the traders, discern which securities are priced properly and where it's improperly priced. But the fall of 1997, Asian financial crisis hits, and all of a sudden we've got volatility in the finance sector. So my boss says, we really need another trader on the desk. We'd like you to trade the finance sector. No, thank you. I am a person who likes to think about things, right? I'm a math person. I studied math theory. I like to do long proofs. I didn't like to make split-second decisions, and I certainly didn't like to take risks with other people's money. Right? I worked for an investment firm. We were managing other people's money. But she said, no, it's okay. It'll be temporary. All right, so I start training with one of my colleagues from New York, pretty aggressive guy. But I sit next to him, and I'm like, I'm going to learn everything he's got to teach me. So I'm listening to him as he's talking with the Wall Street traders, and he's got this very confrontational approach, like, no, we want to buy the security here, and you beep, beep, beep. Those are swear words. And so I become just like, I'm a great student, right? So I learn all of this stuff. And before long, I've got my little headset on. I'm walking around. I'm pacing around the desk. No, I want to buy it here. And what happens is that this style and this language starts bleeding into my life outside of work. This is before I had kids. And my mom's in town. You guys know where this is going, right? My mom's in town, and she proposes something to me, and I look at her and I go, you must be effing kidding me. So I didn't say effing, though. I said the real word. She paused, and she looked at me like, you are so grounded. And she looks at me, and she says, that must be something you say at work. And I realized, oh my gosh, I'm not being myself at work. I've become this other person, right? I allowed this person to train me, and I'm emulating his style. So then the next question is, well, how do I trade like a woman? Because at that point, I was trading a big risk sector. I was trading all of financial institutions. This was 1997, and as far as I know, there were no other female institutional traders. So I had nobody to look to. I had nobody to model what I should be. So I thought, well, I guess I can just be nice. So I start just being really sweet. And what I realize is that I'm talking with all these Wall Street traders, and I'm pretty much the only woman they're talking to all day long. And so I just start being sweet. And I change my negotiations technique, thank you, Holly Schroet, change my negotiation technique from a push to a pull. So I say things like, instead of, I want to buy the security here, and here's all the rationale, I start saying, well, I know you want to sell it to me here, but I want to buy it here. So I'm going to let you decide. How happy do you want to make me? And it works. It it was really wonderful. So what I learned from that, and Kelly has helped me define this, you didn't know this, but it's okay to bring my feminine side to work. I didn't quite know how to articulate it, and I heard you say this recently. It's okay to bring my feminine side to work. So I had been thinking all along that in order to be successful at trading, I had to emulate a man. I had to be tough. But it wasn't authentically who I was. And what I realized through this is that I could differentiate myself by being a woman and actually be better at what I was doing. I might get emotional too. Like, it's okay, we're women, we can cry. It's okay. Okay, so meeting Kelly Mack. I heard her speak at a World Conference several years ago, but it wasn't until a couple of years ago that we had sort of this one-on-one at a Haas Women in Leadership event. And I have to say, got so inspired by this woman who is like this charismatic encyclopedia about everything in women in business. I've been an advocate of women's rights since I was 15 years old, but meeting Kelly really just like upped it to a new level. And I have to say, it's really, really lovely when you meet someone in life who's walking the same road that you want to walk on. So I am so, so thrilled to have the privilege to get to work with you and to get to know you. It's all just a small round of applause for Kelly. And I have to say, this new Center for Equity, Gender, and Leadership is really, really exciting. We have such an opportunity. The time is now. The research is here. Kelly is the person. We are really going to shake things up. Now, I can't close out here without talking about being a mom. So you guys have gotten to meet my sweet boy, Calder. He is my biggest fan and supporter. He comes to everything. I think it's really, really important for him to see me. When I teach classes here, I've done panels and other speaking engagements. He always comes. He sat through an entire panel on global portfolio management. Afterwards,
Not interesting. Minecraft is more interesting.
But he did ask me afterwards about the differences between international equities and domestic fixed income. So it was good. And if you ask him to describe me, he'll say, "My mom is good at math," which is like, how cool is that?
And very annoying.
I'm supposed to be annoying. I'm your mom. But really, I'm a single mom, and it's really hard. And I don't always get everything done. Like, I didn't quite get this speech memorized. But the important thing to me is I'm raising this son who's going to turn into a man who's a man who respects women. And for me, that is super exciting. So I'm going to end it here. That is my story, or that's the arc of my story. I hope that some of these stories have resonated with you. I hope that you can look back in your life and say, what were the inflection points for me? How am I transforming myself? You know, our story helps us know who we are now. By looking into the past, we can get some clues about who we are now and who we might become in the future. And as I said in the beginning, I believe that life is a process of becoming ourselves. Enjoy the journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. We have a couple minutes. Do you want to do a Q&A? So we have just a couple of minutes. If anybody wants to ask any questions, we can do a brief Q&A with Larissa.
And I'm also happy to stay after, too. The first question is always the hardest. Right?
My name is Kim, and it was brilliant what you just said. I'm a mother. Shout out to the mothers if there's some mothers in here. Because we have many shifts to work. So anyway, so the question is for you, how have you pulled some ladies, some women through at Dodge and Cox or wherever? Oh, and can you sponsor anybody here?
Feng Wu, please stand. I'm going to do this by example. So I have chosen to mentor a lot of women. Tori Sims, are you here? Excellent. Nancy? So there are a few women here who I think are really amazing. My friend Sally. I didn't really mentor you. You just stand next to me and hold me up when I'm going to fall down. You guys can sit down now. So Feng I met when Feng was about 15 years old, and she was in high school, and we connected because we both loved math. But I agree, it's really, really important to look around you and to find women who are ambitious and focused and determined, and to try to find ways to help them. Now Feng, if you ask her, she'll say, the only reason I'm here today is because of Larissa. That's not true. Feng is Feng is here because of who Feng is and because what I could see in Feng. And all she needed was a few words of encouragement every now and then. She ended up coming to Berkeley and studying math here at Berkeley. She went on to Columbia and got her master's in actuarial science and became an actuary. So she's amazing. Now all I did was encourage her every once in a while. For Nancy and Tori, I can see that they are already accomplished women, so all I'm doing with them is connecting them with each other, giving them words of encouragement. Here's what I've done. If you need any help, let me know. So there are lots and lots of different ways to do it. It's that, again, that difference between being a mentor and a sponsor. I don't have time to be a mentor, but we can all afford to look around us and see who needs a little nudge. Yes?
Larissa was really shy. I didn't find out that she's presenting until a couple of days ago, so I want to come and she has mentored me for 15 plus years, and I have four older siblings, and I just came from China, and I'm the only person in my family with a college degree and a master's degree in Columbia. So she's one of the most important women in my life, and she does so much for demonstration on how to become a great leader.
That's my blind dog.
My blind dog.
It's his blind dog. Do you want to just stand up? We'll go here and here.
Hi, I have a question. I worked at finance as well, also on a trading floor. How do you deal with being a mom on a trading floor and dealing with sexism sometimes?
Yeah. It comes up all the time, right? So it's that thing where either you can like slam into it, and I have to say my first couple years sitting on the trading desk, I went into the bathroom and cried all the time. And then it was a combination of just saying, I'm not going to let it affect me, and at the same time saying, you know what, that's not cool to say. Right? So it's finding a way to introduce the notion that, hey, what you're saying is it's not cool, without being like in your face about it. And so that's the approach that worked for me. But first I had to take care of myself, right? So the first thing I had to do was be like, I'm not going to let this affect me. This is not about me as a person, right? This is about this is their thing. This is their view. It's how they see me. That's not who I am. So that's the first part, right? However you want to do it. Sometimes I envision a cobalt blue bubble around me, and I'm like, stuff is going to come up, but it's going to bounce off. It's not going to hurt me. And then it's figuring out, in that situation, what you feel comfortable doing. Because I know a lot of women are scared to say something because then they're ostracized. You know, you're not a team player. So it's figuring out what you feel comfortable with saying with your own voice. Happy to talk to you more afterwards, too. Yeah. Guess what? Women have babies. Newsflash. It's okay. It's okay. I'm happy to talk to you more about it afterwards. Yeah.
Hi. Oh, wow. It's pretty nerve-wracking to actually say this in front of like a women's conference, but I just recently, like as of the last 2 months, realized that there's an issue with women in tech. I've been working in tech for a number of years, and I've been fortunate to being at companies that have had pretty strong female leaders at the top, so I thought that was like the best of all possible worlds, and that things were as good as they were going to get, and I didn't see any issues. I mean, there were issues, but I didn't recognize them for being gendered issues. I just thought they were just things that as they were in the world. And recently, over many, many press cycles and books and things, I'm starting to realize that even in the best of all possible world tech companies, there were a lot of issues that I even personally witnessed, and I just never recognized them for what they were. So I'm like squarely in that Steinem quote that you put where it's like, oh, first it's gonna piss you off. I'm like squarely in the pissed off phase. So,
Yay!
It's only been 2 months, so I'm just wondering, now I'm like, almost like, I feel like I'm over-indexed because every time I see something, I'm like, that's a gender thing. Like, after Scotch O'Clock, the men didn't clean up all their glasses and the women did it. And I was like, men didn't clean up themselves. We had to do it. And so I'm just wondering, like, what's like the path forward? How do you push past that like angry phase and get to like a phase where you can like do stuff again?
Oh, I actually think the angry phase is kind of good. It's just. I mean, I'm going to answer your question, but just in something really, really similar. I have these conversations all the time, and it's almost like you have to pick where you're gonna, which issue you're gonna deal with, right? So, I was having dinner with some friends of mine, and my friend's husband has a VC firm, and he was very, very excited telling me about how his number 2 in the firm is a woman, but they've had a lot of trouble, retaining women in VC firms. And my whole thing here is, well, it's like the culture might not be conducive to what women want to be doing. So I said, well, how do you evaluate your employees? And it's, he gave me this whole criteria, and it's all things that men are good at. And so I said, well, but aren't these things that you really want? Don't you want your team working together and collaborating and having people advance the goals of the whole team and all of this? So I suggested that maybe he could think about incorporating some of those metrics in terms of how he evaluates his employees. And he said, well, that would be too confusing to have all these different metrics. And I said, well, why don't you just, since these other ones seem to really align with what you're hoping to achieve, why don't you just change the metrics? And I bet you would retain a lot more women. And he said, well, but that wouldn't be fair. Exactly. That's my point, right? So I'm angry all the time by this stuff, but it's picking, certain things where you feel like you can move the needle. And I do think it's important, as I said earlier, to not react in a way that's angry, right? I know from being a parent, if I get mad at him, he's not going to listen to me, right? So how do I find a way to shed light on a situation and be like, that's so interesting. Hey guys, are these all your glasses here? Because I think the women's are all cleaned up. I don't know. There are different ways to do it. You got to find your own style. But yeah, congratulations on being enlightened.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.